Hi, we're going to work from an example we already saw in the course, the math function plotter. So in this version you can see that we added some input fields for changing the color of the curve, for changing the range of the x values, changing interactively the functions we are going to plot, and so on. Let's start from the very basic example we saw earlier in the course. We saw that the function drawing is located in a div, and we just added a section tag from HTML5 just to identify the part of the document where the function is plotted. Later on, we will add another section about the input fields and the different controls. You've got also a body onload equal plot. That means that when the page is loaded, we execute a JavaScript function named plot that is located here, and that uses the function plot function from the external library we use, this one. And it takes a set of parameters that are located at the beginning of the JavaScript part that will indicate in the target property the ID of the div where we are going to plot the function. In the data property, it's the function itself, sinus x, and its color red. So what can we do to improve this is, first we can add some CSS code to make this nicer. I'm going to change the view with CodePen. So let's resize that and let's work on the CSS part, maximize CSS editor. So what I can do is that I can indicate that the div that contains this function will have a border, some shadows, and so on. So now it's rounded. We can add some shadows, height, margin, and so on. So let me just copy and paste some code I prepared. So here we are. So now what I've got is a nicer presentation of the function itself. Now I'm going to add a section that will contain the different controllers that are input fields from HTML5. So let's do it. So I add a section called plot settings that will contain all these controllers. Let's start, for example, with the controller for the color. So here we go. So what we added here is a label color value and a color input field from HTML5. So if I click here, it asks for a color. And we can also add an event listener on change equal plot. That means when the color has been selected, call the plot function. And you remember this function is the one that plots the mathematical function here. The plot is here. So what we are going to do is in this change color function is change the property of the parameters here. So let's add some code for that. So how can we get the value of the color from JavaScript before plotting the function? We are going to use the selector API, document.querySelector, for the input field whose ID is color. Value here is the color itself. So what we do is that we are going to use the color for changing this here. So parameters dot data, it's an array, so 0 is the first index, the first element. It corresponds to the part I highlight now. Dot color equal color. So if I change the color, these lines are executed and the color changes. We can use the same principle with other input fields. So let me just copy and paste some code I prepared that will add all these different controllers. So now I've got all the different controllers, and if you look at them, they all have an on-change or on-input event listener. Now we've got two sections, two HTML sections, one with an ID equal to plot settings that corresponds to the different input fields, and one with an ID equal to plot that corresponds to the function itself, the drawing here. So if I want to have a nice look and feel, what I can do is share the same borders and shadow properties from CSS, put the first section with the different input fields on the left and the plot on the right. So let me just cut and paste some CSS rules here that will factorize the common properties for both sections in a section selector. Okay, so what I've got now is that I've got a nice balanced view of the whole application.